Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. What's happening in the world? Well, a lot of things, from the Suez Canal to North Korea to Taiwan. My God, where do you turn to first? With us today is Bill Parker, a long time in the Navy, and he's been on the show so many times. Bill Parker, introduce yourself.
Hi, John. Great to be back on your show again. I'm the CEO of a tech company called Efficient Ships. Been a life member of the Council on Foreign Relations, and spent a career in the Navy, and glad to be back on your show.
Now, you've been in the Navy so long, and you've been in Washington. You have your ear close to the ground. Give us an update. What do you think is going on? Where do you think you want to begin? North Korea?
Sure. Let's begin with North Korea. That'd be great.
North Korea has fired some missiles. What does that mean? Does it mean anything?
Well, it means a lot, actually. And when you look at North Korea's military, this is, a pretty significant military. 430 ships. They've got about 400 tanks, 70 submarines, 60 nuclear weapons by many accounts, 800 aircraft. They've got over 1 million, I think about 1.2 million military right now. So they have a very large military considering the size and considering the GDP of that country. They have been doing a lot of testing. They did a test back in 2017. That test, a nuclear weapon, had a 250 kiloton explosive rate. And when you compare that to Hiroshima, which was 16 tons, that's a very large weapon. They have tested again back in 2017 the Hwasong missile. This was the Hwasong 15, which had a 8,100 mile range. So they certainly have some capabilities, and they're increasing on those all the time. These last two tests, this last one was a ballistic run, about 280 miles, again towards Japan. Landed in the sea, short of Japan on purpose, of course. But they're showing that they have a lot of capacity, and they continue to press us.
Any word on the Chinese influence upon them or anything? Anything new?
Well, it's really interesting because there is a growing, strengthening relationship going on, really between Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China. It's really interesting to watch. Secretary Blinken and National Security Advisor Sullivan, they had strong words with their counterparts. Wang and Yang were their names when they were in Alaska recently, and then all of a sudden, 200 Chinese ships, show up in the Whitsun Reef in the South China Sea. So there's one. Kim Jong-un's sister tells Biden to basically behave himself, or that if he doesn't, he's not going to sleep well over the next 4 years. And then a couple days later, we have missile tests, 2 different missile tests. The Iranians are pushing back on the JCPOA and other possibilities there pretty significantly. Meanwhile, Iran and Russia, following the Russian conversation, or the U.S. conversation about President Putin, they've started to have more meetings, more public and private meetings between the Iranians and the Russians. You've got all that going on. At the same time, you have migrants testing the waters on our borders as well. So there's a lot going on at one time. Now, every administration gets tested, but this one seems to be getting tested faster and more significantly than others in the past.
Let's go to the other side of the world temporarily, the Suez Canal. Is that purely an accident, or is that anything that we should be concerned about?
I'll tell you, I've made a lot of transits through the Suez Canal in my former life in the Navy. I drove an aircraft carrier through there. To give you an idea, an aircraft carrier is about 1,051.5 feet long. John F. Kennedy that I drove through there several times. And at some points in this canal, it gets pretty darn narrow. It's 120 miles long, and it's at its narrowest point, it's about 60 meters wide. That's about, 197 feet wide. This Ever Given that ran aground is 400 meters long and 59 meters wide. So to give you an idea, basically take the Empire State Building, turn it on its side, and that's what was driving through the Suez Canal. This is a beast of a ship. And while it was driving through there, It was about 7:30 in the morning on Tuesday. Very high winds, sandstorms going on, very low visibility, and it looks like they missed their mark on the turn. So I do not believe it's anything intentional, just based on not anything to do with intelligence or anything, but just based on driving through a lot myself and seeing what it looks like when you have a sandstorm and you lose those visual markings as you make your turns. I could easily see how this could happen.
Now, you're a Navy man. How long is it going to take to get it unhinged?
Boy, you hope really quickly, because about 1/10 of all the goods and services that go by sea, and remember, 90% of goods and services around the world travel by sea. So 10% of that goes through the Suez Canal. And this thing started Tuesday morning. It's now Friday. I think you're talking about at least another 3, 4, 5 days. So it might be into the early part of next week before they get this thing out. Hopefully they get it out before that and they float it. But I think they're going to be not only digging out below, but at the same time, they're going to have to take some draft off the top by removing some of those containers. Let's
go to Washington. A lot of people are concerned with President Joe Biden. Any gut feeling? I mean, you're a lifelong Washingtonite, and you know the score. What's going on?
What I'm seeing is the world is testing this administration at a faster pace than we've seen before, and you have to ask the question of why that's happening. Is there a belief that they can get away with things? Is there a belief that there won't be as rapid of a response, or is it coincidental? I don't know. But I would offer that there's certainly a faster response by the rest of the world to see what we, the United States, do as we're being tested, as we talked about Iran, China, North Korea, the folks coming over the border, the relationship with Russia. Those are just a few.
President Putin got bold and he challenged President Biden to a debate.
He did. I would love to take that debate, by the way. I'd do it any day that he showed up. But yes, he did challenge him to a debate, and President Biden and I think most other presidents would say, I'm not going to allow you to fight above your weight. I mean, remember, the Russians have a significantly lower GDP than we do, a significantly smaller military, and they continue to fight above their weight because they're pretty good at using the media. They're pretty good with their diplomats. But the reality is they should not be at the level they are right now. And for some reason, we allow them to continue to be. So I think it's probably smart that a sitting U.S. president does not take the bait on that one and try to debate with the president of Russia.
We have another minute or so left. Where would you like to go?
Well, I'll tell you, I am concerned about COVID. I'm concerned about the variants. We're still losing 1,000 Americans a day. We're starting to see an increase in COVID cases in numerous cities and states around the country. And I think that when you look at what happened with the migrants, God bless each one of them. I know they have a tough life and they're coming here for a better life. But when they come over the border and they're not tested and they're released into our society, you have to ask the question of, does this make any sense? You need to test and at least know who everybody is and need to know whether they're positive or not before you allow them into the rest of the population as we continue to fight this COVID. And I think we're going to be fighting it for a while because it is mutating.
Dr. Bill Parker, thank you for coming on this Sunday morning, and you really know your stuff, and thank you for sharing it with the American public.
Pleasure is always mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.